The Sacramento Kings beat down the Nets in Brooklyn 110-96. De'Aaron Fox cooks up a 30-piece. Domantas Sabonis dominates as usual. And I want all the smoke here tonight on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is almost here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And I am not going to lie to you, I had a rough day today. I had a tough day. Not the best of days for me. So seeing the Sacramento Kings get this win tonight, and the way they got this win with De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis both popping off specifically, oh yeah, I want the smoke tonight. I'm gonna, as my buddy from ESPN 1320, Damian Barling would say, get your stuff off. Yeah, I got some stuff to get off on this Locked On Kings podcast today. Now, if you want me to dive into the analysis of this game and potential trade talks and things, which we're going to talk about, I'm going to get to all of that. I'm going to get to it in the next segment. So if you want to skip the smoke and get to all of that, go ahead and jump ahead right now. But I encourage you to stick around no matter what side of the line that you're on. And this is a line that should not be drawn. This is a line that should not be in the sand. But I've been reading the comments in my comment section, especially after last night's episode or the other night's episode when I talked about De'Aaron Fox and playing through injuries and how he's being wrongly criticized, wrongly accused of hurting his team by playing hurt and doing what he feels is necessary to give the Sacramento Kings the best chance to win. I read your comments. I read your emails. I've seen the tweets popping off on Twitter and Blue Sky. Strangely enough, they're awful quiet tonight. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe it's because De'Aaron Fox popped off for a 30-piece tonight. 30 points. 11 of 19 from the field, 4 of 7 from three-point range, 7 assists, 0 turnovers for De'Aaron Fox. Look, I'm just going to say it outright. Recency bias has got some of y'all losing your minds. Recency bias has got some people saying some crazy things about De'Aaron Fox and turning on the man far too quickly because it's easy, and I understand you're frustrated with how long it's taken maybe for the Kings to make moves, or these last two losses to start this road trip, both being kind of beat down losses at the hands of the Denver Nuggets and New York Knicks. I get it if you're frustrated. I get it even if you're concerned about how far De'Aaron Fox can take this Sacramento Kings team, or if you have doubts or not, if De'Aaron Fox is capable of being the star player on a championship caliber team, or to take this team deep into a playoff run. If that's you, I get those concerns because De'Aaron hasn't necessarily shown us that yet. But some of the stuff I was reading, man, some of the stuff I've been interacting, I've had private conversations with a number of you, reaching out to a number of you to have more of a one-on-one conversation so it's less hot-takey and less like in the public eye, and just wanted to talk about it because I was trying to wrap my brain around like, why do Kings fans suddenly feel this type of way about De'Aaron Fox? Why are so many Kings fans suddenly so untrusting of De'Aaron, or so done with De'Aaron that they want him to not even play, that they'd rather Keon Ellis and Devin Carter be out there? And I love both of those guys, but those guys can't hold a candle to what De'Aaron Fox can do on the basketball floor. It doesn't make any sense to me. This is the 9th game this season, y'all. The 9th game this season that De'Aaron Fox has scored 30 or more points. That, of course, includes his 60-point night, which, by the way, no player in the NBA has scored 60 or more points this season other than De'Aaron Fox. So he has the highest scoring game of the season. A game, by the way, that the Sacramento Kings lost, not because De'Aaron Fox wasn't playing well enough, but because he didn't have enough help in that game. And then he followed it up the next night with his 49-point piece. So he's got 9 games where he scored 30 or more points. I understand it's been a while. I understand he's had a stretch of like 6 or 7 games where he wasn't shooting the ball well, where he was primarily in the teens, right? He broke 20 for the first time in a couple of weeks. He got to the free throw line for the first time during this road trip in tonight's game. So I get that he hasn't been playing the best, but the sample size from this season shows that De'Aaron Fox has been playing fantastic, that De'Aaron Fox is a star caliber player. And the switch up, or like the where I talk about the recency bias, the amount of people that have looked at this stretch and started losing their minds about, oh, De'Aaron Fox ain't it. De'Aaron Fox ain't the guy. The Kings would be better off if De'Aaron Fox were not playing and sitting on the bench resting his injuries. How in the world would the Sacramento Kings ever be better off with De'Aaron Fox sitting instead of De'Aaron Fox playing? Even a 50% version of De'Aaron Fox is better than 0% any given night. And this version of Fox tonight was not 100%, but he looked great. He was spry. He was moving well without the ball. So 9 games this season that you've gotten 30 or more points out of De'Aaron Fox, plus another 7 where Fox has scored 28 or 29 points. 16 games this season where he has got 28 or more points for the Sacramento Kings. But a stretch of 6 games where the guy is playing through countless injuries. And the amount of I'm with you if you were like, hey, Matt, maybe he should rest for a couple of games. Maybe he should, he's clearly banged up. I'm worried about him. I would rather him take a couple of games off and rest up and hopefully heal up and feel better. If that was you, I'm not coming at you. I'm not talking about you here. I'm talking about the people that were straight up saying, and you can read the comment section, straight up saying, De'Aaron Fox playing right now is hurting the Kings. The Kings need to be trading De'Aaron Fox. They're better without him. They should move on from him. Those are the people that I'm addressing. Because y'all so quickly forget how amazing this player is, how dynamic this player is, and somehow, even in Sacramento, De'Aaron Fox is underrated as a two-way player. He's one of the best two-way players in the league, period. Period. What he can do on the offensive end of the ball, we've all seen it. We all know it. And then on the defensive end, De'Aaron Fox is one of the only stars that will play the caliber of defense that you see De'Aaron Fox play. Right? He's up there in that sense with the Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders of the world. But even in Sacramento, people turning on him or not giving that credit. No. Now, look, there's no doubt that the injuries have been bothering him, right? But the reality is, and again, I shared this on past episodes, De'Aaron is not going to heal up without taking a serious amount of extended time off, right? And if De'Aaron Fox had not played in this game with how poorly the Kings were playing offensively to start this game, they would have lost in Brooklyn tonight. Like somebody reached out to me. Again, some people have such a hard time just admitting when a guy has a good game because they'd rather be right. Somebody reached out to me on social media and said, Matt, the Kings went on their big 11-0 run in the fourth quarter that helped them create separation to win this game. They did that as soon as De'Aaron Fox came out of the game. Well, number one, De'Aaron Fox went out of the game at that point because he was raked across the eye and had to go to the bench to make sure his eye was okay, number one. And number two, the reason why the Kings were in a position to go on a run like that is for the first 3 quarters when nobody other than De'Aaron Fox or Malik Monk were scoring the basketball, De'Aaron scored 30 points. De'Aaron got him to that point. De'Aaron carried the team on his back. Look at the numbers, right? De'Aaron Fox, after 3 quarters, had 30 points, 11 of 19 from the field, which is 57%, 4 of 7 from three-point range, which is also 57%, and a perfect 4 of 4 from the free throw line. The rest of the Kings, 50 points, 22 of 45 from the field, which is 48%. That number's not bad. But you look at the three-point shooting, 1 of 13, 7% from three-point range, and 5 of 10, 50% from the foul line. De'Aaron Fox was carrying the load offensively. And I know a lot of you have been calling for, man, the Kings need to get more from De'Aaron Fox in the first 3 quarters. Why doesn't De'Aaron Fox show up in the first 3 quarters as much as he shows up in the fourth quarter? Where here he is scoring 30 points through 3 quarters, including a 16-point third quarter, to help the Kings close the gap when they were behind by nearly double digits to the Brooklyn Nets. De'Aaron does all that work himself, setting up his team to wake up and go on that 11-0 run that they went on in the fourth quarter. Y'all trying too hard, man. You're trying too hard to take away from the guy by talking about he was the guy, like as if De'Aaron Fox coming out was what switched things for the Sacramento Kings. De'Aaron Fox coming out allowed the Kings to suddenly go on this run. That's absurd, man. We can't be doing that. He played great. He was in attack mode. He looked really solid. And I know some of you are already going to say, Matt, it's one game. It's one game. He had one good game out of the last 6 or 7. Now, we're not doing that. Because as I've shown you, the sample size shows more often than not this season, he's had great games. But one 5 or 6 game stretch where he's been struggling to shoot the basketball, but he's still been impacting winning, which we want to ignore, being perfect from the foul line in 2 fourth quarters in a row, having a 13-assist performance against the Washington Wizards. We don't want to throw all that out and not give him any credit for that because he's not shooting the ball well enough. But a 5 or 6 game stretch is enough for you to go, the Kings are better off without him. The Kings should trade him. The Kings should be resting him because he's hurting the team while playing, when the vast majority of your sample size this season is, no, he's really good. He's the star of this team. He's the leading scorer on this team. So, yeah, there is no Matt. It's just one game argument because then you're arguing against yourselves at that point. But he's not the only one that I want to get some stuff off about, and I want the smoke about. Talking about Domantas Sabonis, too. I'll talk about Domas and what I got to say about the monster triple-double that Domantas Sabonis had in tonight's game. I'll get to that here in just a second. Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting who will score the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on who's going to win the coin toss. You can do it all on FanDuel. It makes it easy to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what is happening on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on top of the cake, if you ask me. Download the app and head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and you could win $200 bonus bucks with the FanDuel.com app and their FanDuel app available on mobile devices. Bet with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 59. So earlier today, I recorded a squad podcast with different members of the Locked On Podcast Network. They did something like this last week, too. I was not featured on it, and I know they posted it to the Locked On Kings channel, and a lot of you reacted really negatively to it. This episode is going to post tomorrow. I encourage you to listen to it because I'm actually on it this time, so there's someone there to talk about and defend the Sacramento Kings. But one thing I did not defend on that podcast, or one thing I did not take too much time to discuss, and you're going to hear in that podcast, is the amount of people that regurgitate the same tired talking points, the same low-hanging fruit when it comes to Domantas Sabonis, refusing to give Domantas Sabonis the appreciation, the recognition that he deserves. This is very common around the NBA, around the national media, and I deal with it even on the Locked On Podcast Network. So that also put me in a bit of a bad mood today. But Domantas Sabonis tonight, 21 points, 8 of 10 from the field, 22 rebounds, and 10 assists, his 7th triple-double of the season. I mean, we've been hearing it for years, but just this season alone, at least from my colleagues on the Locked On Podcast Network, first it was Bam Adebayo is way better than Domantas Sabonis, and it's laughable if anyone were to pick Domas over Bam. Well, don't even bother comparing the numbers between Bam and Domas this season because it's not even close. Domantas Sabonis has beaten the you-know-what out of Bam in that sense. Now, sure, if you want to say Bam is the better defender and go with that, I'll give you that. Domantas Sabonis is just astronomically better at everything else. But, okay, you can have your defense if that's what you're looking for in your center. I choose to take the vast skill set that Domantas Sabonis has. And now it's Alperen Şengün deserves to be an all-star over Domantas Sabonis because Alperen Şengün is playing for the Houston Rockets that are having a pretty good season right now. Now, I'm not trying to trash on Houston because they are playing well, even though the Kings are 2-0 against the Houston Rockets so far this season, but I digress. Again, compare the numbers. Look at what Domantas Sabonis is doing and look at what Alperen Şengün's doing. It's not hard. Go to Basketball Reference, go to Player Comparison, type in Domantas Sabonis and Alperen Şengün, and look at the numbers side by side against each other. It's a landslide in favor of Domantas Sabonis. If Domantas Sabonis is Nikola Jokic light or B-grade Nikola Jokic, then Alperen Şengün is like B- Domantas Sabonis. It's not close. So dealing with those direct player comparisons, and then, like I said, the same tired, regurgitated talking points. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Take that card that he's got to do it in the playoffs card and hold it to your chest as hard as you possibly can, Sabonis doubters. That's all you got left. That's all you have left. And I'm telling you, when the Kings get back to the playoffs, whenever it happens, y'all are going to be, well, first off, you're actually going to watch Domantas Sabonis play basketball again because you haven't since he last played in the playoffs. And it's obvious by the way people say, the things people say about Sabonis. Or if they do watch, they keep quiet. Sabonis is going to face the same challenges that the Golden State Warriors threw at him a couple of years ago. Except now he's shooting 47% from three-point range, and he's not hesitating on his middies. He's going to knock those shots down, and suddenly nobody's going to know what the hell to do against Domantas Sabonis because you can't stop him, in addition to De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk and DeMar DeRozan and all the other weapons that the Sacramento Kings have on this roster. So hold on to that. You got to do it in the playoffs card as much as you possibly can. And just because you have that card, and you might be right, Sabonis does have to prove that he can be this caliber of player in the playoffs. He's not the only one on this roster, of course, but he's certainly a big one. So I'll give you that. I'm okay with that. I mean, you say the same thing and regurgitate the same thing over and over and over and over again, absolutely refusing to acknowledge the greatness of what Domantas Sabonis is doing during the regular season, but you'll acknowledge the greatness in regular season numbers for other players that fit your narrative or fit because you like them more. Their regular season numbers seem to matter, but Domantas Sabonis' regular season numbers don't. It's fine. I can even look past that. But why? Why is it so hard for y'all to just acknowledge what the man is doing without a but after it? Man, Domantas Sabonis, look at this triple-double tonight. 21 points, 22 rebounds. What a freaking performance. A 10 assists to his 7th triple-double. He's leading the league in double-doubles. He's improved as a rebounder. He's improved as a scorer. But he's got to do it in the playoffs. But take the but out of it. Appreciate what is in front of you. I can do that with players that I absolutely can't stand in this league. I can't stand James Harden. Cannot stand him. Hate watching James Harden. Don't hate him personally. Just hate watching James Harden. I think he's a boring basketball player to watch. But I can acknowledge without but when he cooks the Sacramento Kings. I can acknowledge that he's absolutely a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't need to put a but after it to make myself feel better. Some of y'all care so much about being right instead of just acknowledging the greatness that's in front of you. Domantas Sabonis doesn't have to be Nikola Jokic, but he does things that only Nikola Jokic can do, and nobody else can, including Alperen Şengün and Bam Adebayo. But he's got to do it in the playoffs. Okay. And again, if these people were watching Sacramento Kings basketball, they could tune in and see what happens to the Kings when Domantas Sabonis comes out of the game. There are people that say that the Kings can't win with Domantas Sabonis, or that Domantas Sabonis is part of the problem of why the Sacramento Kings are stuck in this kind of, not mediocrity, because they're better than mediocre, but not a top team in the Western Conference. Oh, it's because of Domantas Sabonis. Yeah, when Sabonis comes out of the game, the Sacramento Kings completely fall apart. I'll say this, and this is not insulting to either party. De'Aaron Fox is the best player on the Sacramento Kings, 100%. Domantas Sabonis is the most important and most consistent. Domantas Sabonis brings it every single night. He's the same player. He does the same things, and he is at the center. He is the foundation of everything statistically that the Sacramento Kings do right. There is a reason, and I love De'Aaron Fox to death. Just spent the entire first segment talking about him and supporting him. There's a reason why De'Aaron Fox and the Sacramento Kings didn't dragged themselves out of the deepest, darkest depths of basketball hell until Domantas Sabonis showed up. Yes, it took Tyrese Halliburton to do it, but it was more than worth it to get this organization back on track for the first time in nearly 2 decades. But he's got to do it in the playoffs. Again, hold on to that card. Hold it as close to your freaking chest as you possibly can, because it's going to be the last card you have, and pretty soon it's going to be irrelevant. And I can't wait for that day. You think I'm obnoxious now? Whew. Just wait until the playoffs. All right, now that we got this game done, and now that I've got my ranting done, let me kick my soapbox away so I don't have to stand on it anymore. Can we get a trade done? Is that too much to ask? Because I've been telling you, there's a lot of noise and a lot of smoke around a potential John Collins trade. There was a ton of smoke today with the Sacramento Kings being in Brooklyn about a potential Cam Johnson trade. Look, I know this isn't how it works. You can't just trade players like Pokemon cards and just take the card and put it in your back pocket and he's mine now and I walk away to my next adventure, right? But as much sometimes I wish, hey, let me just take Cam Johnson, put him on the bus or put him on the team plane to Philadelphia, and let's just get this deal done while the Kings are still in Brooklyn or currently leaving Brooklyn. And look, let's get it done, man. Cam Johnson comes to the Kings. Kevin Huerter, Devin Carter, top 8 protected, 2028 first-round pick. Let's get it done. That's the package. Let's do it. Nets, are you going to get better? I don't think you're going to get better. And I know some people are going to go, Matt, Devin Carter. What? Wait, no, he's the Kings rookie. He's the first round pick. He hasn't been given a big enough sample size yet. He could be something good. Yeah, you're right. He could be. But if you give me the choice of adding Cam Johnson to this team without giving up Trey Lyles, but I have to give up Devin Carter, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm doing it. I believe Devin Carter could be something great. And I'm not saying I'm putting Devin Carter on the trade block. I'm not actively shopping Devin Carter, but if I can use him over an established NBA talent like Trey Lyles to go out and get a Cam Johnson to bolster my second unit, you're damn right I'm doing it. Because if I got that, now I have an 8-man rotation of the Kings starting 5 as we know it, Cam Johnson, Keon Ellis, and Trey Lyles. Well, I'm feeling pretty good about that. Plus, if I really want to, I can continue to use Trey Lyles for another upgrade a little bit later on as we get closer to the trade deadline. Maybe a Jonas Valanciunas type player. Jonas Valanciunas, I think, makes like $9 million a year in Washington. Trey Lyles makes $8 million over the final year of this contract here. Gives you more options. Just saying. So that to me is the deal. Huerter, Carter, top 8 protected 2028 first round pick for Cam Johnson. Let's shake hands and get this deal done. Because I know there's still time. We're a little under 2 weeks remaining until the trade deadline. I'll say this, though. I don't feel comfortable waiting that long, right? Because a lot can change. A lot can fall apart in 2 weeks. From what I understand, the John Collins potential trade with the Utah Jazz is plan B. I think the Sacramento Kings clearly would prefer Cam Johnson over John Collins at this point in time. I think Cam Johnson fits more of what they're looking for. Plus, Cam Johnson's under contract for longer. There's reasons why they would prefer Cam over John Collins. John Collins is certainly not a consolation prize or a bad plan B by any means. But I think the actions show us that Cam Johnson's probably priority number 1. Or let's say you get an agreement with Cam Johnson or for a Cam Johnson trade done, an agreement for John Collins trade done, and then you can really debate and look between the two and make that final decision. I guess it's possible that you could get both, but extremely, extremely unlikely. So I wouldn't be hoping for that if I were a Sacramento Kings fan. I think the Sacramento Kings need to try and get this done as soon as possible. Not just for my and your impatience sake, but just because a lot can change. And I know Cam Johnson has value. I know John Collins has value. I don't know if any team is going to be willing to offer as much as the Sacramento Kings are willing to offer in these deals. But if I'm the Kings, try and close this deal down now, because you clearly do need depth help. Because there was an interesting development tonight in Doug Christie's rotations. Kevin Huerter did not play. He got a DNP coach's decision tonight. According to Brendan Nunez of Sacktown Sports 1140, that's the first time in Kevin Huerter's time here in Sacramento that he got a DNP. The only other times that he didn't play was when he was hurt. If he was good to go, he got into the game at least a little bit. First time that he got a DNP. And what did that do? That freed up minutes for everybody's hero, Keon Ellis. Keon Ellis played 30 minutes tonight off the bench, and he cooked. 11 points, 4 of 9 from the field, 3 of 6 from three-point range, 3 steals, 2 blocks. But outside of Keon Ellis, the Kings bench was pretty much non-existent. The rest of the Kings bench had a combined 6 points. Doug McDermott played 6.5 minutes, 0 points. Trey Lyles played 15 minutes. I thought he played fine. 4 points, 5 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block. Alex Len played 4.5 minutes, 0 points. The drop-off between Domantas Sabonis and Alex Len is it's like a canyon. And I don't mean that to insult Alex Len. Alex Len is also a completely different type of center to Domantas Sabonis. So it's really hard to compare the two. But clearly when Sabonis goes out and Len goes in, the spacing is a nightmare. The Kings have to play a completely different way, and it does not work. So the 4.5 minutes of Alex Len, a disaster. And then Devin Carter played 9 minutes, 36 seconds, 2 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. This team needs depth and bench help. Cam Johnson, John Collins, get something done. Just get it done sooner than later. Tomorrow on Locked On Kings, in addition to the squad episode that I mentioned that's going to be posted, you can check that out. But you also get a regular Locked On Kings podcast. Very excited. Morgan Reagan, Mo from Deuce and Mo, is going to join me here on the Locked On Kings podcast. Of course, you see her on Kings pre- and post-game live as well, a color commentator for the Stockton Kings G League team. Morgan is awesome. I look up to her and Deuce in so many ways. I think they set the bar for not just podcast content, but Kings content, period, in the city. Really, content, period, anywhere. They're that good. And I had Deuce on the podcast not too long ago. Now I get to have Morgan on the podcast. Very excited about that. So I hope you will tune in for that. And look, if you want to throw the smoke right back at me, you want to come right back at me, let's talk about it. Because look, ultimately we all want the same thing. Right? We might disagree about how you get there. We all want the same thing. We want the Sacramento Kings to succeed. We're bonded in that. If you felt like I came after you a little bit too much in this podcast because of how you believe, I guess I apologize for that. But I also hope you recognize that you some of y'all got a little silly when talking about De'Aaron Fox over the last week and some change. But we all want the same thing. But if you want to talk about it, continue the conversation. You can do it publicly in the comment section. Hey, hit me up via email. MattGeorgeSports@gmail.com. That's a good way for us to talk. No lights, no cameras, no other people commentary. Just the two of us, one-on-one. Let's have conversations about De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Kings basketball, whatever you want to talk about. Hit me up there. Appreciate your support as always. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of the Locked On Kings podcast. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.